Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Eva Stone. I am a choreographer. I'm a teaching artist. I'm on faculty at Pacific Northwest Ballet School. I'm also the artistic director of the Stone Dance Collective, a dance company I began in 1993. Please do not do the math on that. And I am also, I've also initiated a course at Pacific Northwest Ballet called New Voices, Choreography and Process for Young Women in Dance, which is aimed at educating women around ages of 13 to 15 in the process of choreography to start them on their journey. I'm here today with some amazing panelists. First is Amanda Morgan, who is a company dancer with Pacific Northwest Ballet. Leah Terada, also company dancer with Pacific Northwest Ballet. And Margarita Armas, who is in the professional division at PNB. And I'm very honored to be here with all three of you ladies. All of these women are on different journeys in their choreographic path, and we're here today to talk about what it is to be a female choreographer, especially in ballet and in contemporary dance. And so I'm going to ask some questions of you ladies, and we'll see where this conversation takes us. But we're interested in your perspective and your journey and how you see this art form and this craft developing from your perspective. So I guess the first question I have for you is, what made you initially interested in choreographing? Usually as a dancer, we come to class, we learn repertory, we are engaged in someone else's choreographic process. But at some point, you all three made the flip and decided to step out and start making your own work. So Amanda, let's start with you.
Okay. I guess I initially started choreographing because I wasn't dancing enough. I wasn't being used enough by choreographers because of how different I was. I stood out too much, or they wanted things that were a little bit more similar in a group. So that doesn't really work for someone like me when there's no one else in the company that looks like me. So I think because of that, I was just like, I'm gonna make something myself then. Like I'll make it on myself, or I'll make it on other people. And so then I decided to just, give a shot at trying to do next step. And then from there, I just loved it. Really just interacting with dancers in that way and being able to tell stories that aren't always told, especially when, the field of choreography is so dominated by white men. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Fabulous. How about you, Margarita?
I could say the same thing, what Amanda said. But I think I did it more to show off like another part of me. I feel like when I've been training I was training in Miami City Ballet ever since I was 7, and it's pretty much strictly ballet over there. And so, but a part of me I also took a break from ballet before I started choreographing, and that really, the studio that I went to did a lot of improv classes, really opened up that just space for me to figure out how do I move. And so when I came back to Miami City Ballet, I just wanted to just put that out there, also because I'm trying to get a job. So I just wanted to just show who I am, and choreography was pretty much the only way that I can show my true self. So yeah.
Excellent. How about you, Leah?
Well, let's see. I think I started making short little dances at the School of American Ballet when I lived in the dorms, and we were making little pieces in the hallway and the community rooms and stuff, and we just had so much energy. And I remember we would go down to the studios and kind of fill in those little dances we would make together, and it was I just remember it being so fun and so free, going from having classes, technique classes and point classes and everything else that are so rigid by nature, and then being able to just run around, dance, do what feels good, and then remember what those were and come back to it next week and visit again. That's kind of how that started for me. And then coming to PNB, there's just more opportunities to grab at and more formal opportunities. And so it just felt natural to start something else in my choreographic journey. So that's kind of how I got started.
I think you all three bring up a really important message here. And that is sometimes just playing around with making dances in a hallway can lead to a choreographic career. That's literally how this journey begins. And also, when you're saying that you're not being represented or you're not finding a place for yourself and you have that passion and drive, to go ahead and make that opportunity yourself. I encourage my students all the time to stop waiting for people to give you things. Go ahead and make them yourself. Get some friends together on a Sunday and make a dance in your backyard. This is how the process begins, and it's completely valid. And I think sometimes we get confused thinking, oh, well, I'm not a choreographer until my stuff is on a stage. And that's completely, in my opinion, not true. And so all of these things are so wonderful just to encourage young people. That's how we start. I think people wait, how do you know I'm a choreographer? How do you know I can do this? You just basically jump off the diving board and jump in the pool. That's awesome, you guys. Talking a little bit more about your choreographic process, I have two questions for you. One is, what do you enjoy most about choreographing? And what do you enjoy the least? Leah, I'll start with you.
I think what I really like about choreographing is getting to know the dancers that you're working with. I think that's such a treat that doesn't always happen when you're a dancer in a company. So forcing yourself to break down some kind of walls between coworkers or between friends or whatever the situation is. I think I really like that. And just knowing that they have a whole different vocabulary of dance that they have available to them is really exciting for me to throw something out there and they'll be like, yeah, of course. Or like, how are you doing that? I don't understand how you're doing that. And I think that's also just really important. It's also probably the most frustrating part too, because you're like, why can't you do this? Or like, why can't I understand how to best make you look good or to accomplish some kind of task or whatever it is. But yeah, I think that is the hardest part too.
Right.
So I'm going to say both of those.
So true. Amanda, how about you?
My favorite part definitely has to do with the dancers as well, but I guess not just the dancers. I think just the whole process of combining, whether that's like someone made the music, someone's like, either taking a video or doing lighting or like just the community behind it. But I think my most favorite part is really seeing dancers and seeing them kind of evolve, like even over the years, like working with them or over like a couple pieces. I think that was something that was really that's like one of my favorite things. It's like you're watching like someone like transform and kind of ascend into this like artist that they're meant to be. And then the thing I just like the most, I think would probably be the pressure of the pressures that come with it of trying to like make a quote unquote good piece, what is considered a good piece. And also kind of this like, I think, especially in ballet companies, because we're always making so much, that process just gets cut down so much. We don't talk enough about what we're making. I'm feeling this right now as I'm making a piece on PNB, is kind of just like, this is what you're going to do. Like, this is like what it is. Like, this is kind of what it's about. But then you don't even have time to be like let saturating in that or letting it sit with you and really talking about it, which I always appreciated in your classes, Ms. Stone, because we always very much talked about things going on in the dance world or just going on, in the class. I think that always adds layers and ideas onto the movement actually being made or performed. So yeah, it's kind of.
Yeah, I completely understand that. Margarita, how about you? What do you enjoy?
I definitely enjoy getting to know the artists that I'm working with, not only through movement and my choreography, but like actually talking to them. I think what really inspired me was having discussions with you and before modern class. I like kind of like opened up space like that when I choreograph and try to get to know these dancers, because I've been in positions where I choreographed on kids that were 9 years old. And then I've choreographed on people that were 30, much older than me, that which was really funny. I didn't know they were a lot older than me and had so much more experience than me. And I was just trying to like get, try to see if they've ever like, I was trying to see what type of work they've done. But it turned out that they're incredible artists, and I got to like totally expand kind of my ideas. And but that's definitely the best part of choreographing. And I think the worst part would be watching my choreography. It's honestly the best and worst. Like, I think I'm just so excited, but I'm just like, oh my God, like there's just so many parts that like, I didn't have time to, I just don't know. Like, I feel like the one thing that I can feel is just, I don't know how I feel when I'm watching my own choreography. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's a great point to bring up. I share that with you very much. I've often sat in the back of the theater with my head in my hands, but I usually find that if the attempt is honest and you really put everything you could into that, your audience will see that regardless of all the things you see wrong, they'll see you in that process. But that I've been doing this for 30 years. It never goes away, Margarita. I hate to tell you for the bad news, but, and I usually, like Amanda said, there's a time limit. Like you have 2 weeks to get a 20-minute piece done, and you have an hour or two a day. And it's just rapid fire, and getting to know your dancers, sometimes you're right, is challenging. And we don't get paid to like, let's just sit around and talk about how we feel because we're under such deadlines. And that's where the skill of communicating with dancers comes in handy. But that's something that's nurtured over time. That's all of these things super important to enjoy, and also to embrace the things that you hate the most. I think also helps you as an artist. There's many. So my next question for you is kind of an introspective one, and this is: what is your point of view as a female choreographer, or are you still defining it? And what helps you to define yourself as a female choreographer? Somebody want to start? Let's do it, Leah. What do you got?
Let's see. The first part of the question was,
what is your point of view as a female choreographer?
I think even saying that for me right now is still putting a label on how I'm making my work. And I've only been choreographing for 4 years or something. I say only, but I have been choreographing for about 5 or 4 years-ish. And to be in this kind of melting pot of a whole bunch of other choreographers who are also making work with me, I try not to separate the male and female work. It's a huge factor, and I consider it, but when I'm making my work, I don't like to feel like I need to put my perspective as a woman into my work. If it shows up, awesome. If someone else sees it, that's great, but to going out of my way to put something, to try to say something about my womanness doesn't feel right to me. So does that kind of answer the question a little bit for that first one?
Yeah, sure. Amanda?
Sorry, it's a little loud in here. But I think for me, at first, I wasn't thinking about it from my perspective. I think I was just thinking about it like, oh, this is me, like I want to tell this story, so I'm going to say this, or I want to try to do like a fun piece with this, so I'm going to, and then if little hints of me come out, they come out. But I think naturally, in the dance world, especially being a Black woman, being a Latinx woman, it's just like, things are gonna come out. And I've come to this point, especially after this year, that I really want to make work that, you know, talks about what's going on in the world and makes people at times uncomfortable, you know, because there's not always enough people doing that, because there's not always enough diversity, you know, with the people that are creating work. So like, even though I don't necessarily have to make a piece about these uncomfortable things, I think that art really can cause people to actually think about certain issues in a way that maybe, you know, hearing it on the news or seeing it outside, they wouldn't think about it, but seeing it in the piece, they'd be like, oh, okay, like it affects this person who's an artist, you know, I wouldn't even think of that, you know? So I think I'm still trying to figure it out though, you know? I know that it's there, like I know I have these certain perspectives that are different, but I'm not gonna only be in one, go about it one way or another.
Margarita?
I'm definitely still trying to figure it out. I haven't been choreographing that long, but I never really saw myself, you know, I never realized how there are really only male choreographers, especially in ballet. And I just recently, I started kind of embracing and trying to, I guess, let that motivate me to really, really get into choreography and get any opportunity that I can, being, you know, a female choreographer. But I think like what I really wanted to put out into the world is not only show that, you know, females can, you know, create work just as, you know, even better than all the male choreographers can. And I really want to, I think what really defines me, that's more than a female, it's like my roots. So being Peruvian, and I think that that is part of my mission too, is not only being, you know, female, but being a Peruvian, you know, how do you say, Peruvian female choreographer, and honoring like, you know, my blood and my family and everything, all my ancestors. Like it's a broader, it's a much bigger vision for me and mission with my choreography. Yeah,
That's great. I mean, I'm excited for the three of you, all of you on your journeys. But as someone who's been in this field for a long time, I'll just reiterate that your voices are important, and that your point of view as a woman and as a woman in this art form, that when we are presenting work, especially on main stage companies, that this point of view and perspective is underrepresented. And you're right, Leah, maybe it's not anything that you consciously think of or consider, and that's great. But just knowing that your point of view is yours, and that it's present, and that it is being heard in this respect is important. It's disappointing when we look at the major ballet companies in the United States and the underrepresentation of female choreographic voices. Last year, we improved. 80% of the works performed by major ballet companies were by men. We improved from only 20% of women from the year before, which was like 17%. So we're making progress. It's too slow and it's too late, and we're too long in the tooth for us to be having this disparity in being seen and being heard and represented, and having our work out there. It's going to be a long haul, but I think not only always considering your work that I have to make work as a female choreographer, just making your work, but making sure that the opportunities are there for you. And that's what really needs, in my opinion, needs to be opened up, is the opportunities. So next, PNB has a program called Next Step, in which company members are given the opportunity to choreograph main stage works. And the dancers that they use are dancers from the professional division. Both Amanda and Leah have participated in this program, and Margarita has been a dancer in some of these works. I want to know if you guys want to chat a bit about how suddenly an opportunity to create a work. You have a beautiful space. You have rehearsals. You have you have dancers to work with. You have rehearsal space. You can even have work composed for you. You have a costume department. You get in regular times, pre-COVID, you had an opportunity to throw your work up on stage in front of a live audience. What an incredible gift and opportunity. This is a rare opportunity. So I wonder if you can speak to how this opportunity helped you, what was lacking from an opportunity like that, and then Margarita, your experiences in working with Next Step choreographers for that program. Someone want to go?
I can start us off.
I'll go. Oh no, you go.
So let's see. I did Next Step that was supposed to premiere last year, or at the beginning of this year, so during COVID times. So I had a bit of a damper. We started the process as if it were to be performed on stage, and then we ended up making a digital piece. And actually Margarita was one of the dancers in the digital piece. So it's kind of fun to see her here too. I hope what I say here is true. But so I think this was my first time doing Next Step and putting my work onto a stage, or it would have been my first time putting it onto a stage. And I found it pretty refreshing to have a schedule and a time frame and have these dancers here. I'm going to get this done here. And that's just how I like to work. I like to be that, like kind of check off boxes, make this material, teach it, or make it with them, whatever it is. And that worked really well for me up until like the 4th month or so of working. And I hit that mark and was like, oh, wow, there has to be like an end point to this. So we have to have something, kind of like Amanda was saying, it gets nervous and feel the pressure to make something that that should be good, whatever that means to you. So that's kind of when that hit. And it would have been nice if I had reached out more, gotten people inside, and Eva into the studio and watching and just giving feedback. And I think that was on my to-do list, but you know, February hit and that was it for studio space. So I think it was certainly an amazing opportunity that I don't know a lot of places who not just take advantage of having a theater, but also like push people to do it. Like, we want you to make something. We want female choreographers in there. I know, Eva, you were really pushing for that, and that's, it's nice to know that we're wanted and that we want to be heard and stuff. So I think that was super awesome of PNB to be hosting something like Next Step.
Amanda?
Yeah, I think for me, because the first time I applied for Next Step, or when I did Next Step, I'd only been in the company for a year, so I was like 20 years old, maybe 21. So I was like at this point where I was so young, and I just wanted to make something fun and do, like, try to test out, you know, see what would happen. A lot of people in my piece were my actual friends too, that were PDs, because they're only, you know, a year younger than me, 2 years younger than me, or I was PDs with them, like, you know, the year prior. So I think it was a really fun experience. Like, it's fun to make things on like people that you like, that are your friends, that you can push. And a really great experience about, you know, that first year of Next Step too, is that year it was like the first year that there was 3 women choreographing. Before, whenever I'd been in Next Step or I'd seen it, growing up in the school, there was always usually just 1 female choreographer, and then the other 5 were male. That was like always what it was. And I always remember kind of like noticing that, and I was like, I wonder why that is. Like, that needs to change. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. So then when I saw that it was like Nancy Cassiano also choreographed a piece that year, and also Cece did as well. And it just, I don't know, it felt great to have that kind of camaraderie and this equalness happening in the group. And all of us were really young. Our first time, like, actually doing the program. So I think that was really great. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great introduction into like trying to create something and experimenting and getting your voice out there, getting your perspective out there, and making something. And it's also great for the PDs too, because it's like one of the only times that they can be a part of something that isn't necessarily just like a full-length ballet, or, you know, there's so few performing opportunities as a PD. So to have something created on you, I think is like, that was one of my favorite things from being a PD. Ezra Thompson, I was in both of his pieces when I was a PD, so yeah.
And Margarita, how about your experience participating in it?
I agree with what Amanda just said. It was a great experience to get that performance opportunity. But also I think for me personally, I love just being able to try like somebody else's way of moving, and if they let me and, you know, interpret their movement like my own way, then I think that's really cool too. I think you learn a lot from working with all kinds of people and artists, like, and I think for me as a PD, it was a great opportunity for me to like mend the relationship between company member and PD. When I've worked with another company before, PNB, as a student, and I was always intimidated. I felt like I was lower than company members, and maybe that was just me, but the environment was a little difficult to see. Like, I couldn't see myself, you know, being able to work with people like Amanda and Leah. Like, and so when I came to PNB, it was not only is the company just so, you know, warm and welcoming, but Next Step really just like, you know, just it brought us together. And that's not only great for you as an artist, but like that really helps you mentally to like move forward and like, you know, yeah, like take the next step, like grow. And I really, really enjoy Next Step. I think it's an amazing program. Yeah.
I think this is, I mean, to avoid sounding like a commercial for Next Step, it is a great opportunity because it allows company dancers to make a transition, to help them through a transition from being professional dancer to choreographer. And that's something in a dance company that's not part of your contract. You know, you come to take class, you come to rehearsal, you learn your rep, you get on stage and you perform. There's nowhere is it built in there to help you through the process of learning to become a choreographer. And so this is a great, like you said, it's a great transition. And Amanda, I like what you said about there not being many female choreographers initially in Next Step. There was a promo recently for the New Voices program, and Peter Bull said something very significant. He said, people will follow who's in the front of the room. And if you're going to rehearsals and it's always male choreographers that are setting works, and it's always, you know, and those are the work, then that's, maybe that makes the men more comfortable to step forward and say, oh, I'll try choreographing something, because all the men who are older than me are doing the teaching and doing the choreographing and the artistic directing. And where do the women feel comfortable to step into that role? And so I feel very grateful to have an opportunity from the ground up to be in the front of the room for New Voices. These women are obviously level 7, but hopefully, you know, giving them something in the front of the room to follow through and encourage them. And hopefully you all will start seeing more female voices in the front of the room. That's kind of really what our goal is. Okay, one last question for you. I teach choreography and have done for a long time, and for my students, I'm always telling them about that the choreographic process is defining who you are as an artist. And that takes a very long time. Like I said, I've been making dances for 30 years, and every project I start, I really feel like I'm redefining who I am. I never want to make the same piece over and over again. Every project is new, and I'm trying to look for a new avenue and a new way of getting to through the art creative process into the end goal. So it's an endless journey. But I wanted to ask you ladies how you felt. What are some of the things that you hope to find down the road on your journey as you practice your craft? Anybody can start.
I can share.
Please.
I can. So I think I was actually interviewed for one of the first big opportunities that I got to choreograph for Works in Process at the Guggenheim. And I was asked, like, what do you wish to do with your choreography? Like, what's your mission? And I think at the moment I was just like, well, this is like the first major opportunity. I honestly have no idea, but I think where I saw myself starting was to really see how I can. This is going to be a little hard to explain, but let me see if I can do it. But if I'm like dancing with someone, I'd like to see how I can choreograph, let's say 2 people, and show, let's say, have one person represent me and one person represent like global warming or something, and like shows that some type of human relationship, human connection that the audience can see, that will explain and show what it's actually doing to all of us right now, and what it's actually making us feel, as if it was like this other human is making me feel this. But anyways, my point is I think my mission has definitely jumped from that, and it hasn't even been that long ago, and I think due to recently going through a whole identity awakening, and reclaiming my Indigenous identity, and really diving into learning more about my culture, my blood. I'm really, really like eager to, with whatever next opportunity I can get, to start seeing how I can connect Peruvian folklore with my way of moving. And I've always been actually encouraged to do, I have like a big community, a big Peruvian community back home in Miami, and people that I consider family. And they were, since I was like 10 years old, they're like, you call me, like these Andean music bands are like, call me and we'll collaborate. And I'm like, ballet and Peruvian dance, like, what are you saying? Peruvian music? No. Andean music? No. And then you just like, I'm older now. I can like, I'm a little more creative. And I'm just like, I think now it's not only just curiosity, but I think it's very much like a mission for me. Like, I think I really want to put Peruvian folklore and Peruvian history, the beauty of Peru, out there, because unfortunately folkloric dance isn't as respected and appreciated as how ballet is. And I think for me, a big way to have people understand and learn more about different like cultures and different races and different people from around the world is with art. And there's art from all over the world that we don't always have access to, and so I think it's like, it's an honor, and it's up to me, and I'm excited to see how I can put Peruvian folklore and Peruvian art up there so that people can see. It's definitely, I don't know how it can mend. I don't know how it's going to connect, but I think that's definitely what I'm looking forward to as a choreographer.
That's fabulous, Margarita. That sounds very exciting. Amanda?
Well, I guess after choreographing for Next Step a couple of years, I realized I liked choreographing. So I was like, oh, like it can't just be like, I don't want to just make something for like one night. Like I want to make things for the community of Seattle, because I'm originally from Tacoma, so Washington State native. And I noticed how, PNB, the access to the arts is not always there before, let's say pre-COVID, because now we have, the digital age where people can buy a ticket or see it, through Instagram or whatever. But I wanted to do that already. So I kind of was already doing that. And I started this project called the Seattle Project last October, where I kind of just started collaborating with different artists all over Seattle, just making like little things here or there, interviewing them, getting people to know about all the amazing artists that are in Seattle, because there are really so many amazing artists that I didn't even know about, growing up here. So I think as a choreographer, I'm hoping to just keep connecting more and more with different, establishments, organizations, making art accessible so that people, can watch things. Also getting artists paid, of course. But That's one thing I'd like to do. And I think eventually I'd like to have my own company that could maybe tour, do something like that. But for now, I think I just want to keep making work and keep, making things that are reflective of what's going on in the world and the people that we see outside in the world, the people that are, not always visible to everyone. Yeah.
That's great. How about you, Leah?
Well, I'm thinking back to a show I did on students at the School of American Ballet. They were my classmates, and it's kind of a black box theater presentation showing. And I made a piece, and it was so easy for me to do something that I knew other people would like. Like, I knew it. And I'm at School of American Ballet, very Balanchine, very pure classical ballet. I was like, I've been doing this since I was like 3.5, so I got this. And I remember that being so easy, and it felt so good to make a piece that I had such good feedback on from donors and other ballerinas and other men in the company who were making pieces. Not that the men was important, but there were only men making pieces in the company. And then I remember making another piece 2 years later, and I had to be so honest with myself about what I wanted to make and why I wanted to make it, that it broke down some walls that I wasn't comfortable breaking down yet. So this piece was like totally like raw, and it had like, it was the first time I felt like I poured something of myself into my work, and I want more of that. And I want to find a balance too between those, because I think that's also really important. You're making a piece for an audience. You want to speak to the times and know your audience. But I think there is something that I can bring to the table too, and I want to phrase it in a way that is digestible and easy to grab onto, but still is really honest and really, I'll have no regrets putting it on stage or wherever it goes, because I know that it's a piece of me, and I can't be mad about that. So I think that's where I want to go from here.
Well, Leah, I've seen your work, and I've been watching you closely over the past 2 years, and you are well on your way. Well on your way.
Good.
Absolutely. Ladies, I want to thank you so much for your time, for being here, and for sharing this conversation. I think we could stay here for about a week talking about being women in dance and choreographers and dealing with the process, but unfortunately we don't have that much time. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you, PNB, for the opportunity to have this conversation. And I wish you all a very wonderful rest of your day. Take care. Thanks for being here.
Eva.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.